and welcome back to KXAN Live. I'm your anchor, Esmeralda Zamora, and today we are going to be speaking with one of our KXAN interns who has been working on a story that was published this morning, or yesterday, I'm sorry, and it's on our website already. We're going to dive into the topic with our KXAN intern, Kevin Myers. Kevin, thanks for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Let's jump into it. What was the topic of conversation for that article that you wrote up?
Yeah, so I wrote up an article and produced a video on different ways in which students at the University of Texas are looking to come together on different, controversial topics, especially in the light of President Trump taking office back in January. I think a lot of people are very divided right now, particularly on college campuses. And then, of course, last year we saw a ton of division on college campuses over the Israel-Hamas war. And so profiling different groups that were looking into those subjects and having difficult civil conversations about that, I think, was something worth looking at.
And what inspired you exactly to pick this topic?
I think just from my personal experience as a student at the university, I think I've seen how I think sometimes there can be a bit of a monoculture where maybe a lot of your friends or a lot of people in your class all think kind of the same way, and if someone else in the room has a different perspective, it can feel very challenging for someone to speak up for fear of being ostracized or something like that. And so I think looking at groups that really dive deep into embracing the anxiety, the challenges that come with talking with people you disagree with, I thought was really important.
And you said that you spoke with several groups. I think you spoke with two. What are those groups, and what did they say they focus on when they get together and they speak with one another?
Yeah, so at first I profiled Bridge Texas. It's a chapter of a national organization called Bridge USA. They have a number of different college campuses that they sort of have the same mission of bringing students together from liberal and conservative perspectives to have important conversations about the politics of the day. And so I visited them during a discussion they called on the nature of executive power, of course, in light of all the different executive orders we've seen passed in the last few months. And then I profiled another organization called ATIDNA International. That one was actually founded here at the University of Texas by one of the people I interviewed, Elijah Kallenberg. They've, of course, expanded to other schools across the country as well. Their focus is on bringing students together in conversation about the history and the current state of Israel and the treatment of Palestinians and all of that. And so I think those were both really important groups that really profiled I think the politics on campus today.
Well, not only did you write this article for our website, but you also created a visual version, right?
Yes.
Let's go ahead and listen to that, and we'll talk after.
For today's college students, it's harder than ever to agree to disagree, and many campuses reflect America's polarization. Experts say the current climate is stifling students from talking politics.
There's been too many instances where those kinds of confrontations have turned really ugly.
Some UT students are looking to change that. Bridge USA is one such group of students dedicated to viewpoint diversity and instructive dialogue.
We're hoping to change that, by exposing our members to a wide variety of views.
Eng attributes political divisions to a negative media environment that she hopes to change through discussion. Her students reacted to President Trump's flurry of executive orders during a March 5th discussion.
The government should not be a profit-seeking institution.
Eng says her students reflect the student body, which she says leans left, but she says they're all independent thinkers. She says that's what makes it work.
Everyone recognizes the importance of having a healthy dialogue.
Another group looking to bridge divides is ATIDNA International. Their mission, civil dialogues on one of the most divisive issues on campus, the Israel-Hamas war.
This is the place for ideas and knowledge to be transfused and transmitted through conversation.
Elijah is Jewish and the founder of ATIDNA and co-president of the UT chapter. He spent time in the West Bank where he witnessed discrimination against Palestinians. His co-president is Palestinian American and has family in the West Bank.
It's not even just Israel-Palestine where we see this, but people are just too much into their echo chambers. People are not willing to explore beyond a perspective that perhaps they had growing up.
During a March 7th meeting, the group discussed the Oscars Best Documentary winner, No Other Land. The film covers the displacement of Palestinians in the West Bank and has been criticized both for its story and its Israeli co-producer.
My cousins had no issue with it, many of them who lived in the land, of course. The family WhatsApp, they were applauding it.
You only have so many fights you can pick. And they're picking fights with sympathetic Israelis.
Experts say Atidna is doing important work, and allowing students the choice to opt into these discussions is huge.
They're tackling a subject that, for a lot of people on this campus, is extremely important but extremely difficult to discuss.
Experts say there's limited but promising research. Still, they say there can be limitations from a student-led approach.
When you get into action being taken at sort of a policy level, that I think you have to ask, what role should the university play?
Still, students say change can start with them.
Be the bigger person, share your story, and I think we can all definitely benefit from someone like that in our lives.
Kevin Myers, KXAN News.
First off, Kevin, that was awesome. Great job on that package. Was there any difficulties when it came to getting these organizations together and getting these individuals to speak with you on such an important topic?
I think overall I really appreciated how open both of these organizations were to my being there, to covering the work they're doing. I know there was, some paperwork they had to, get through just in order to have media present, in these on-campus spaces, like getting approval through the university. But other than that, it was pretty smooth sailing. I think they really want to see these stories told. I think they want to see change come to the campus climate, or to how people talk about these difficult issues. And I think they appreciate how media coverage like this can be a part of that. As far as talking to students overall, again, they were largely very open. When I went to Bridge, Texas, everyone I asked for an interview was like, yeah, of course. I think when it came to Atidna, by and large, very open. The co-presidents there and some of the other members of leadership there were just incredibly welcoming. I think there was one student who I spoke with. They later requested to remain anonymous, have their name removed from the article, which of course I did. And that just comes down to how I think how divisive this issue of Israel-Palestine still is on college campuses. But by and large, I think people were very open to letting us get a peek at what they're doing.
And through your reporting, through all of this journey, what did you learn was the most important reason to have these groups on campuses?
I think the most important reason is just to demonstrate that this is possible. I think for so many people, it can seem like people are just too divided today, or maybe even like the problem is the other side, right? And not that you yourself need to be willing to engage in the discussion. So I think the most important thing is really just how they model this behavior for other students and for the country, and offer these lessons for us on how to do that.
And what did they say was key in balancing their personal beliefs to what their peers or their friends also believed?
I think just a lot of it came down to having people who approach it open to dialogue with someone they disagree with, or they might disagree with. I think there's some amount of talking with both groups, I didn't hear that much about, well, we did have like this fight break out. Like that wasn't really a story that I heard very much. And I think it comes down to, on some level, people self-selecting. So the people who want to have this conversation, who aren't just there to start a fight, are the people who come and join. But I think I think they look for that sort of mutual respect in their members. And I think, they profess values as an organization that sort of help to sort of create that culture and attract the right people.
Was there any surprising insights that came to you while you were covering this story?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I think I think it was a lot of what I had hoped to see going into this. And I think obviously they're doing very important work. And so, I think maybe hearing, I think particularly for Atidna, they talked about how they're making an impact in communities that are touched by this, but are not like immediately involved in discussing this all the time. So they mentioned sort of the religious communities that are involved in campus for Jewish and Muslim students, and how they feel like they're really making an impact there. I think that was interesting to hear and surprising. And then also they feel like there's some limitations where some of the more activist groups on both sides, they feel they haven't been able to reach. And so I think that was surprising to hear that sort of level of candor from them about, what's possible and what maybe is just a bridge too far, at least for now.
And what advice did these students have for others aiming to promote the same thing, unity in political divided environments throughout campuses?
I mean, I think obviously just, sort of following the example they set of, being respectful to each other, being curious about what someone else's perspective might be. I think that was sort of the gist of of the answers that they provided.
Well, we do have that article, like we mentioned, published on our website right now. It's titled UT Students Aisle in an Era of Deep Division. Talk to me about some of maybe the numbers that you have in this article that you'd like to share with us.
Some of the numbers?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So at the beginning, I sort of tried to lay the groundwork for, or I guess sort of paint a picture of the current political moment, I should say. And so, yeah, the record high levels of, Republicans and Democrats saying that, they view each other in very, negative ways as closed-minded. And then how students, right, especially some of the numbers from from FIRE, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, I think are concerning to see how students, I think some students at least, seem to believe that it's okay to engage in violence, or even if not go quite that far, to rip down signs for something they disagree with. And so seeing the incivility that exists, I think is what a lot of those numbers show.
What else is in this article that we didn't get to talk about?
I think we've covered most of it, but yeah, I think it covers sort of how, here's that climate, right, demonstrated through these numbers, and then how students are sort of working to fight that. And I think really trying to make a difference.
Yeah. Well, this was an amazing story. Thanks so much for sharing it here with us on KXAN Live. This story lives on our website, on our homepage. You can just go to kxan.com, find it on our homepage if you're interested in learning more, watching that video again, or reading up on what exactly Kevin talked about in his story. But Kevin, we know that your internship here at KXAN is coming to an end soon. What is next for you?
I'm still trying to figure that out right now, looking for different jobs. In the immediate term, going back home to the DC area, I think. Getting a little bit of a break, hang out with my parents will be nice. And then after that, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
How has your journey here at KXAN been? What have you learned? What were some of the hardest parts of it?
I think the thing I've appreciated more than anything is getting the opportunity to write for television, get a lot of sort of repetitions and a lot of practice in doing that. I think that's been one of the most helpful, most career building aspects. I think I do lean towards wanting to produce television, and so getting all that experience I think has been really great. And then I think just sort of learning to appreciate just how random or how quickly things can change in on a moment's notice in news, where some breaking news happens and I'm running out with a reporter to shadow them to see how they're covering some sort of important thing that happened. So yeah, I think embracing sort of the chaos that comes with news, and then also developing these skills, I think I've really appreciated here.
Well, we're so happy to have you here, and we're sad that your internship is coming to an end pretty soon, but I'm sure you have all the knowledge that you need to continue with your dreams and your goals. Thanks so much for joining me, Kevin. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.